But the engine behind everything is your will to do Ratzon Hashem, and that engine is being triggered.
Welcome to Prism of Torah with Rebbe Saf Aaron Prisman, engaging Divrei Torah, packed with stories and practical insights. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or at prismoftorah.org.
Shalom Uvrocha. In this week's very special parsha, Parshas Beshalach, where we have one of the most famous episodes in the Chumash, which is the splitting of the sea, Kriyas Yam Suf, I actually did something I don't usually do, which is I had something to say, which is like a story, or current events in this case, and I so badly wanted to speak about it that I reverse engineered and looked for a Dvar Torah that would fit the current event story. And so I searched, and I found Heilige Gaon of Vilna in Kol Eliyahu saying a marvelous vote, and he kind of brings it with two very, very strong questions. If you look carefully in the text describing the splitting of the sea and how Bnei Yisrael were saved and how they went into the water, it seems very repetitive, because in one pasuk it says that Bnei Yisrael came besoy chayam bayabasha. They went into the water that was in the land. But it says water first, meaning they went into the water that was within the land. Besoy chayam bayabasha, and the waters became a wall from both sides. V'hamayim lahem choma miminam u'mismolam, and the waters became also a wall from both sides. However, the way the word wall, choma, was spelt is with the vav, chet vav mem he. However, later on, there's another instance of this pasuk, and almost, except for two changes, it says the same pasuk again. It later on says that Bnei Yisrael went, but this time it says in the land that was in the water. Halchu bayabasha besoy chayam, in the land that was within the water. Exactly the opposite. Question number one, why do we have repetitiveness of this idea, of this pasuk? Number two, why is the order switched? The first time it says they went in the water that was within the land, and the second time it says they went in the land that was within the water. So we already have two questions, the repetitiveness and also the change of order. Did they go into the water that was in the land, or in the land that was in the water? And the third question is the second instance when it says they went in the land that was in the water. It also says, again, repetitiveness, that the waters became a wall from their right and from their left, from both sides. However, this time the word choima, wall, is written what is known as ktiv chaser, without the vav, only ches mem he. What's going on over here? It's so not consistent, and also it's repetitive. What's going on over here? As we know, the Torah, every kutzo shel yud, even the little tag on the yud, the spitz in the yud, is not going to be written without a reason. There must be something that's hiding over here. And the Gaon of Vilna helps us find what that something, that jewel, is. And he says a marvelous idea. And he says that there were really two groups. On a high level, there were two big groups in Klal Yisroel. There was the group that blindly believed in Hashem. Ad kedei kach, says the Gaon of Vilna, even though we know the Melachim, the angels said to Hashem, why are you saving this nation? Harei, what's the difference between them and the Egyptians? Both of them were worshipping idols. Halalov de avodah zarah, halalov de avodah zarah. And the Midrash says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved them because they have emunah and bitachon. They have total belief in Hashem. However, that was true about one group in Klal Yisroel. This group, when Hashem said, go into the sea, this group, led by Nachshon ben Aminadav and his tribe, his Shevet of Shevet Yehuda, they went in first. Despite the fact they didn't see any land. All they saw was water, the sea. And Nachshon ben Aminadav led this group, and they went until the water hit his nose. He didn't care. He trusted HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That was unbelievable. It's thanks to these people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved Klal Yisroel, despite the fact they were sinning as well. And therefore, the pasuk hints to this idea by saying they went into the water, because what do they see? Water. But Hashem told them to go, they went. And then it became land. However, there was another group in Klal Yisroel, and when they went in, they waited to see the land. They weren't willing to take the risk by having a high level of emunah and bitachon in Hashem, belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And hence they waited till they see the land, and then they went in. And that's why in the second group it says they went in the land that was surrounded by water. Together with that, we're also going to answer why in the first group, when they went into the water that was in the land, it says the word choima with a vav. As opposed to the second group, it says that the water became a wall, but it spells out choima without the vav. Says the Gaon of Vilna. Choima without the vav can also be read as chema. Chema is anger. On a certain level, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was a bit angry, upset with the second group because they didn't blindly trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he was going to save them. You see from here the importance of emunah and bitachon, which we know is the cornerstone for all Yiddishkeit, and how many Sfarim Kedoshim were written to help us ensure that we rekindle that light of emunah and bitachon. We know that many Gdolei Hadoir keep telling us the importance of learning Musar every day. And even though a lot of these Musar books say in the Hakdama, in their introduction, I'm not really going to tell you something new. However, if you ensure that you learn this every day, it's going to eventually affect your hearts, and you're going to make a major change in your life. And hence, when someone asks the Chafetz Chaim, I barely have any time to learn, what should I learn? Half a day I can learn. He says, first learn Musar, and then learn Halacha. Musar, so you have emunah. Halacha, so you know how to live your life. But the engine behind everything is your will to do Ratzon Hashem, and that engine is being triggered by having belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge, and we want to get to the level that we blindly trust Him, like the first group. And even though they sinned, but at the end of the day, when it came to the most critical point, they believed in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they went into the water. Now, the reason I want to say a shtickle Torah about emunah and bitachon is because there's a story over here, as I'm sure most of you have probably heard about this story a little bit. We know that there was Shvuim refugees in Gaza, and there are so many stories how they became stronger in emunah, despite coming from a background that was anti-religious or just neutral and didn't even know so much about Yiddishkeit. And it's very mechazek to see that so many stories were like that. But there's one in specific that was in the spotlight this past week, and it actually came about right after I taped myself last week, and I thought it's very important to bring it down because there's a lot to learn from this case. There's a person by the name of this girl, I think she's 21 years old, Agam Berger. She was brought up by her family in not a religious way whatsoever. She had a grandmother that passed away a couple months ago before she was captured and taken to Gaza. And she was a bit traditional, but the mother wasn't. And when the grandmother passed away, the mother took upon herself to keep 2 Shabbases because that's what her grandmother did. So she said, I'm going to do that as well. When she was captured, she took upon herself, and this came out now that she came back home to Eretz Yisrael, and they don't force her to say anything because it's very delicate, the nefesh, after what she went through. So they let them speak whenever they feel like speaking. And lat things are coming out. Not everything came out yet, but she said a lot. And one thing she said is that she took upon herself to keep Shabbos and to try to eat kosher as much as she can and to say brachos, a blessing on the food before she eats. And she said it wasn't so easy because they made her work and it was her job to cook for everyone. But on Shabbos, she said, I'm a Jew and I don't work on Shabbos. So you're going to have to find someone else that cooks for you on Shabbos. And she did that. And she kept Shabbos in the most difficult situations. Even a person, chas v'shalom, that is shomer Torah and mitzvahs and gets captured and goes there and stops keeping Shabbos, no one would in his dreams start judging. How can you stop keeping Shabbos? No one can fathom what it means to go through what she went through. But Dafka in that place, in the most difficult place, she totally changed her life around and took upon herself, and it sticks with her. You see it now. I am keeping Shabbos. That is unbelievable to reach that level of emunah and bitachon, realizing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's in charge, and she wants to go in the ways of Hashem without having a background. Now, what's unbelievable is at the same time, the mother, without knowing this change in the daughter, made the same change. And she started keeping Shabbos, and she believed that in the merit of her keeping Shabbos and strengthening others in keeping Shabbos, that her daughter will be saved. And it already made waves, and there's so much to talk about this, but we're going to keep it short. She affected a lot of people already. Even an Avrech over here in Beit Shemesh, where I live, heard about this story, and through a certain organization, he wanted to be mekarev to Yiddishkeit, someone else that didn't have a background of learning, and he started learning together with someone going to Haifa University, and they made a siyum in the shul of this family burger, and it was very emotional. And what was really amazing is to see that the mother made a change, and at the same time, the daughter made a change to get closer to Yiddishkeit. And this has affected many, many people already. A couple of more pieces of information from the story that is very important to share is that the mother, when she realized that the daughter will probably be saved and taken out of there, she said, whatever you do, please don't mechalel the Shabbos, don't break Shabbos for this. I don't want her to leave on Shabbos, or if she not leave, because the halacha is, of course, she leaves on Shabbos. But please don't do more chilul Shabbos than what needs to be done to save her and bring her back home. Meaning, don't take pictures, don't put it on the news, nothing on Shabbos. She begged and pleaded. And at the end of the day, she wasn't on that, she was removed from that list to be saved. However, she ended up being saved even, I don't know, at a later date, but not on Shabbos, a couple days after. And what she really pleaded for, she received, because there was no Chilul Shabbos to save her. And it's so amazing. This story is going to stay because you see how this whole family changed, the mother and the daughter, and of course the whole family followed after them, and other people that live around them as well. There's a huge Kiddush Hashem that's coming out of all of this. And I listened to an interviewer saying, so what can we take from this? Our kids are not in Aza Chas v'Shalom. What are we taking from this? How? We're not there. How can it affect us? And the answer is that if someone in the darkest place was able to realize what life is all about and upgrade their emunah and bitachon, surely we can do the same in the comfortable, quote-unquote, environment that we are living in. That's number one. Number two, I heard them say, and I think it's a very nice idea, you see that when a parent makes a change, even though the kid has nothing to do with it and they don't even know about it, it has an effect on the kid. The mother took upon herself to keep Shabbos, and somehow that, seemingly, we don't know for sure, but it seems like it had some sort of a spiritual effect on the daughter. And we all have to do our homework to see where can we change as well. What can we do for the shvuim, for the hostages that are still there? What can we do for them? We can take something upon ourselves as well to do our best to ensure that they will be saved and be brought home as well. And last but not least, this person, his name is Rav Goldwasser. He works together with all these families that have hostages in Gaza and came back. And he said that you see how much they appreciate their kids when they come and they say, that's it, I'm going to leave work. I'm just going to spend time with my kid when they come back. He says that's also a practical takeaway. We should try to realize that we have the opportunity of being with our kids all the time. At least we should try to do as much as we can to have a close relationship with our kids and affect them in a positive manner and bring all of us close to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Mirtzeh Hashem, after this Kiddush Hashem and the full leverage off of this Kiddush Hashem, all the hostages will be released and will be zoiche to merit b'vias HaMashiach b'mira v'yameinu amen v'amen.
This concludes another episode of the Prism of Torah. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the podcast and give a 5-star rating. You can also find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts or our own website, prismoftorah.com, where we have a full archive of all our past episodes. We would like to thank Yona Vefa for the recording equipment and Eli Podcast Productions for handling all our post-podcast productions. Join us next week for another enlightening conversation on the Prism of Torah.